Here we are on our Grown Man Shit number 6. Wait, what's the name of the show again?
Here we are on Friends.
I was trying to remember what number we were on. But I know we're on number 6. And today's topic is focus. That's all I really know right now. So, what are we doing with this? Like, just from the perspective of what it takes for people to focus, men to focus, focus on what our goals are, intentions, on women, on what world are we in?
Everything, all of the above. So masculine focus to the level where you said people focus. There's deep work, I would say, just a book I've passed up recently. The value in being able to focus, and especially in this environment, culture, having our phones, devices, you wake up in the morning, notifications, like where is your focus? When it comes to another layer of it, masculine focus, so accomplishing a goal, temporary, short-term, or long-term, purpose-driven, like those focuses where you actually put your energy into that. And then I would say the balance of focus, just getting appearances, getting preferences, how it occurs for each of us for balance of focus. You know, do you put everything to the side, go straight monk mode, focus in and dial in? Or do you have a balance of, is it important to have the rest? Is it important to have the relaxation? Is it important to have the feminine walls around? When is it important to have what, and how do you balance it all together? What's the most optimal, healthy, or just preference?
That's actually perfect. I'm actually in a conversation with my son around that. You know, my youngest son is 20 years old. And he's struggling with, how do I structure my day and still not have my head all over the place? For a lot of young people, I know focus, intention, anxiety, all of that, they're so inundated with so much information all the time that I wouldn't be surprised if most kids alive today have some form of ADHD, where they just can't focus on anything for a period of time. And one of the conversations we're having is structure in place. Organize your day, even the little things, what you need to do.
That's a good
and
one.
then only focus on that during that time frame. To your larger picture, the balance is making sure you have time for you in that you schedule time for you. That's it. I'm done. So the conversation is done. What's next? Put a schedule together.
That's what was your son, right?
Yeah, that's my youngest son. Yeah. So I got him the book. What's the name of that book? Getting Things Done. You heard of it? It's how to get things done in a day. It actually walks you through how to structure your day and how to prioritize things in your day and how to move things from one day to another. Because there's a lot of things on all of our lists that we want to do, but we can't do all of it at once or even in any given day. So you prioritize things. You say, what are you getting done now? What are you not getting done now? There's a whole process around it. So I got him that book, and we're working on him putting in the schedule together and structuring and organizing his life so that he can focus and get things done. Now, I don't know if that relates to what your idea of what focus was or not.
It's all in the world of it.
Okay.
The actual, I think that micro level daily structure is actually, because that's down to the minute, down to the hour. How do you focus? And that's part of, I think, the practice of focusing is having some sort of structured intention. Deep work, what I was touching on, breaks down into brackets, like having sections, kind of like was it Tim Ferriss' 4-Hour Work Week, like with the intentionality, which others said another way, structure, then going into deep sessions, 90 minutes, 2 hours at a time, where no distractions, nothing else, just focus on that. And it's also talking about the muscle itself. more or less to the context of today with such a instant microwave society, micro content even. Like, it's funny enough actually that podcasts are still something popular. Like, you have to know that you're interested to consume an hour, 2 hours, because now it's micro content, 60 seconds or less, like a fucking pizza. Like, get it done, get the shit out there. So it's, in that type of environment and culture, bringing focus into something. And I'll say for myself, I watch my videos and fast forward, and I'm doing other things, multitasking. So even then, focus is not necessarily there in that same way, except for when I have a deep work session. And now that I've distinguished the concept of deep work, uninterrupted, undistracted work, I now notice where so quickly, so easily, checking email, checking a message, checking a text,
it takes you out.
Exactly. I'm just editing a video, 4-hour block, and it just takes that one moment. Some interns, I upload a new post. Okay, let me take 5 minutes and go look at their video. I look up 30 minutes later. I'm reviewed their videos, giving them feedback, going to my next thing. It's like, shit, I'm still not back at it. And that's really what the concept of the book is, breaking down the psychological, how our modern society, culture, is no longer geared towards the benefits of focus, and where what has brought civilization, society, cultures to where we are today is that we didn't have, like, the most advanced thing was TV or radio, or primitive times like that was just all you had to do was go out.
What you were doing.
Be a blacksmith, working on some swords all damn day, or be fishing or hunting, whatever that was your focus.
Or sitting in the blind waiting for a deer, just you with your thoughts.
Focus. Sure. Anything about your life experience and focus? Where it shows up, doesn't show up. Same thing, you at all?
In the world of coding, like software. When I'm doing software that doesn't require thought. If I'm writing something, it's like, oh, I know what I'm doing. This doesn't da-da-da-da-da. But if I have to figure something out, I have to turn off everything. I get my most done. I can't even have music with words on. I like having music, but it can't have words.
Lo-fi, yeah.
That it's got that house music or techno or something back in the background, but it can't have words. Words will get into my head, distract me from what I'm doing. I can't turn the TV on at all because I'll end up watching the show and then a commercial will hit and say, "Oh shit, what was I doing?"
Just that quick.
Just that quick. So, from a focus perspective, it really is going back to setting up structures so that you can do what you're doing without distraction.
Yeah.
I guess that would be another aspect of focus then is of managing your focus is making sure that any distractions are gone out of the space.
That makes a difference.
If you're home in a house full of people, making sure that you have your space that's secluded with the door closed. When I have my office in my basement, and when I had a house full of people, there was the rule: if I'm home and I'm in my office, y'all can't disturb me because I'm doing something. Now, most of that time that was working, but also some of it was just me time. Like, okay, y'all got too much going on up there. Here I am. But I could focus on what I wanted to do without the distractions.
To that point, that's a challenge for modern men in general, because beyond like a fuck off space, the man cave or your laboratory, writing station, like there's not really a well versed or discussed need for men to have a masculine workshop space. They'll have an office, I'll say at best. But truly, to your point, in a house of feminine, your woman, your children, having the emphasis, don't be coming down to interrupt. Like, drop off a plate if you need to, but truly,
I need to
disappear. I'm not here. Act like I'm gone. Keep it quiet. Yep. That level of focus.
And what I will say to that is, many women don't respect that. When I built my office in my basement, I had to build one for my girl. Even though she had the whole rest of the house, everything else in the house she was doing what she wanted to do with, I had to build her an office downstairs too. So that, because it wasn't fair that I had a space. Why you got a space? Like, I'm working, I'm paying bills, I got, this is, I need my man cave. But as soon as you say man cave, well, then I need a woman cave.
That's another conversation. The tit for tat.
The tit for tat. That
equal, not the same. I'm just trying to get triggered in that.
Right. That's a whole different topic.
All right. Yeah. Completely. This man's the master here. Focus.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Focus.
Most definitely. You just are
Dedicated in exercise, man.
No, I'm genuinely curious. I don't think that's true in my
So-
real life. Like, so that's not
the
like,
way it appears to me is
Right.
when you're doing something, you're doing that thing.
Mhm.
Even in this space here, there's not a lot of distraction in the space. Everything kind of has a purpose. You know, if you're watching TV, you're watching TV. If you're chilling with a girl, you're chilling with a girl. If you're working, you're working. And I've heard you say many times, it's like somebody will come along to distract you, and you will, nah, nah, this is what I'm doing now. Many people, myself included, don't always have that discipline.
what part? What meaning in like literally trying to distract me at that moment, or just in a I'm
In general.
focused on this thing. at the
Yeah,
moment,
I'm doing this
something like
thing, and you know, some girl calls and be like,
yeah,
"I want to
yeah.
do something," or you know,
that. Well, you know, that's birthed from the opposite, right? And you know, if we think about, because as you guys are talking, I'm thinking, well, what's the real reason we try to focus? You know, like what's sort of like if we think about eating, you try to eat healthily, yet snack there, snack. Like, so it's clearly not. It's not like someone has to explain to you why eating healthily is beneficial, yet we still snack. So it's like, well, why are we snacking on distractions? You know, like what is
that's a well said.
You know, and I was really thinking about it. I'm like, okay, we all know focus is it, yet beyond just, okay, it's become habitual to be distracted, but like there has to be some payoff. Yeah, there's the, you know, funny little TikTok or whatever, but there's something in us, and I thought about this when sometimes I'll sit there and I'm like, why is it that I'm trying to not be focused? It's not just that. It's not just that I'm like I could feel a part of me trying not to be focused. Like, oh, I want to, like, you sit there and you're starting to like, you know,
Where's my phone?
right? Where's something, right? And maybe that's because there's an aspect of us that and maybe they're both useful, right? Because if we were always focused on the long term, then life would be kind of mundane. So there's like maybe parts of us that are meant to just get it while you can, right? Make hay while the sun shines. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And then there are things in life that you can't get unless you water the soil, right? But there are things that aren't like that. So it's really interesting, like sunshine, if we're going to use a nature example, you just step outside and you get it. Whereas if I wanted to get apples, and you know, there was no apple tree, I have to plant a seed and water it for years. But it's one of those things that when it bears fruit, it's infinite. Like, it's just always bears fruit. So there seems to be a principle in nature where some things are now and always nows. And some things are, you don't get them unless you water. So the way I look at the focus thing is, and I was literally breaking down to a mentee Sunday, because, you know, he asked me, well, how do I have a YouTube channel? You know, I have this job that I'm doing, and I'm currently, you know, struggling, I guess, to maintain the both of them. And then I asked him, I was like, okay, well, which one do you want to still be doing in 2 years, for example? And he said, obviously YouTube, right? I said, okay. So let's say that, let's pretend that both of these things are plants. Like you have an apple tree, a pineapple tree, and whatever. And let's pretend that your job is, you don't like pineapples, and your job is a pineapple. It's like, let's say you two are the apples. Let's say you take your attention, which is focus, and you put all of it in the job. And because you're tired, you stop watering the YouTube channel. What's going to eventually happen? He's like, it's going to die. I was like, okay. And so, in a year from now, just like a plant, do you think you can just go back there and water it again and you just start back where it gets started from? So I know you're probably going to have to replant it and start all over again. And now you're a year behind. And he was like, so I was like, what do you think you should do? He's like, I gotta keep watering this YouTube channel. Right. And so the focus part, that's how I think about it, is like, okay, I have a finite amount of time and attention every day. And there are a lot of things I'd like to give it to. It's not like I don't want to partake in the distractions, let's just say. I trust I want to. But I try to future pace, and that's probably the biggest tool I use. I future pace and go, okay, let's play this out. I go do this
Is that
thing.
Your own distinction or something about future pace?
Future pace is, I don't think it's any Vidal thing. I'm pretty sure this is a common. It's just the concept of looking into the future at a behavior and then see, like, because we generally can go, if I go, okay, you're like, all right, there's this cookie here. I know I'm supposed to be on the diet. All right. So let's future pace this. I eat the cookie. I break the diet that I'm on. I have to start over. I feel bad. I feel ashamed, and then I start over again. Is this worth it? You know, that would be like a future pace, right? You can picture what you will feel like after you do an action, and then you go, all right, I'm not going to do it. I really want to eat it, but I'm tired of having that feeling of, like you lack self-control, and then you lose respect
beating
for
yourself up for whatever, yeah.
Right. And so I do that. Now that's on the back of a lot of mistakes and not doing it right. And so my future pace is really like a past pace. It's like, remember the last time? You know what I mean?
Keep doing this.
Right. And so I'm like, I'm not gonna feel that again. Like, I'll be damned. Right. And so the with women especially, the discipline comes from a time where I didn't have it at all. And I saw the consequences of that. And so because that was such a painful look in the mirror, I never since then let it get out of hand, because I'd always go, you've progressed tremendously over, like, again, am I going to stop watering the plant now that it's, 3 feet off the ground? Like, now I'm going to stop watering the plant, right? Because if I do stop, it's not going to become a tree, right? And it's going to just stagnate and die. And then I have to start all back over with a seed. And that's a hard look in the mirror. That's going to be painful. And at that point, I'll know. I mean, it's not like I had excuses before. I could say I was ignorant. But this time, it wasn't ignorance. It was just me choosing to walk down that path, which is a very different feeling than I just didn't know any better at the time and had a hard lesson. But there's like, I took the lesson and I'm going to, do the thing that I know is taking me down the wrong path. So that focus and discipline comes from just being honest with myself about the pain that I put myself through in the past. And then going, okay, in a year, or what we touched on last time, am I comfortable with showing up to whoever it is that's looking up to me, operating in this way, right? Am I going to, because all weight in my word disappears when I stop living in integrity. So if you're like, oh man, you should eat healthy, and you're behind closed doors just
figuring out,
you know what I'm saying, then all weight is gone from your word. And if I let the weight from my word leave, then that's just a disservice to everyone else. And that's just embarrassing, truth be told. Right? It's just a shameful thing. So there's really pain that's like anchoring. It's like, I'm not doing that again. Hard lessons.
That makes me think of it. Like you said, we all know to some regard what there is to do. I was reading Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, some time ago. And he says, the majority of people start hitting their success because, of course, he's interviewed and observed successful people. And it was like 40 to 55, like a range of where they hit this. And it's so funny, the human experience, masculine experience, whatever you call it. I remember it was in my 20s reading that, It's like, oh, I'm ahead of the curve. You know, I'm getting this info. That makes sense. Well, shit, we get into it right now. And effective, successful, yes. And for my potential, for my opportunity, I find here late 30s, 38, going towards 40, and actually having experienced what you're talking about, the pain to reflect on, where yes, I read the book and know the thing, and I thought the same thing. Mentees, 18, 19-year-old talks to you like, oh, you get it then, start then, or let me tell you this, and I'd sit back and watch into the same thing. My own life, I can look at, oh, and it really requires the experience. There's like the life journey that you're on, because at some point, priorities, hormones, whatever lines up with it, the distractions and wherever else you can put that focus is going to be vested there until you have the lesson of, ain't you tired of this shit? Like, ain't it time for this to actually, damn, let me just sit here, get this thing in, and now is the time, and that is where the focus comes. And it is, I'm getting close to 40. I haven't had 10, 15 years. I hadn't felt like I fucked off wasted time, and I can look back and reflect on what I was investing the time in, and just acknowledge and honor, especially in the world of masculine, it's just the facts. Other things, those distractions were more important. That I need to, we say, I'm tired, I need to relax. All the excuses of, you know, I'm taking care of a family, I'm living life, building myself, growing myself, and I can still look at, if when I read that book, I had the focus, the maturity to focus and put my efforts and energy 4 or 5 hours a day into my passion and craft, when I make the time for it a priority, I would have been watering a tree 15 years ago. What would it be today? And yes, it's just interesting. I just find that element, like the humanity of it. We can get the information. Oh, statistics say the average. Well, fuck it, I ain't average. I'm gonna be out here and do the same damn shit, just as human as everybody else. Like, damn, I'm right on time. What the fuck?
I read that book before you did. When I was in my 20s. You know, I read that, Greatest Salesman in the World, the whole gamut, all of it.
Shit, I have that on my damn thing.
Great books. They inspired me, and I can't even say they didn't move me forward. I got stuff done having read them. And to your point, I absolutely did not hit my potential. I absolutely hit 40, 50 and was like, oh shit, time has moved past. Like, when I'm in my 20s, oh shit, I got time, I'm young, I'm ahead of the curve, I'm gonna be the youngest, blah, 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 blah. And then life happens. Doodads happen. You got, that's the other book, Kawasaki's book. That's where the doodad thing comes from. Still use it. This comes out. It's a doodad. Doodads happen where you got kids. You got women issues. You got bills. You know, you got car issues. You got life happen coming at you, and it's like, okay, I need to focus on this because of this. And then your dreams kind of get sideways.
You know what? When you mentioned like, okay, well, what's the difference? You know what it is? Well, I guess when it comes to focus in terms of maybe more material things, in terms of getting a lot of that, because my family had poured so much into me, and I feel like I've been to the point where I can, and my version of paying back is like, all right, y'all, here's your, go tour Europe for a month. Right, that's maybe a $300,000 bill. Okay. Like, that's my ultimate vision of, that's one of, but like that kind of level of. And so I'm not there yet. And so my discipline, what I think it looks like to other people, is from, if I were to have a bunch of doodads, as they say, like, I couldn't live with myself. Like, it's not even like a option for me. It never felt like an option. Like, from birth, it feels like, man, like I'm literally here to take the family to another level. And so there is no wiggle room. Like, I've never been in any illegal, I mean, like, but it's not necessarily from a standpoint of necessarily thinking I'm ahead of the curve or anything like that. Is more like I can't afford to go too far off the path because I'm not done with this yet.
So what I hear is, we had dreams that called us. you have something bigger than that calling to you. You actually have a responsibility calling to you. That's like, I'm responsible for my family's legacy. I'm responsible to be the one that does this, that ends this generational or creates this generational or whatever you're working toward from your family. It gives you a much bigger game you're playing.
You gotta be bigger than self.
And for me, when I was in my 20s, it was all about me. I was like, I didn't have kids. I had my first kid at 27. You know, I was like, didn't have kids. It was just me. I was about getting paid and getting pussy.
And it could have been that, right?
You
Like,
know?
it's not as if that aspect of me doesn't exist. I just don't let it go too far. Like, if I feel like it's going too far, then we'll nip it back because, again, that future-pacing ability keeps me in check. And maybe it's because I've played strategic games all my life, like meaning, like future-pacing, and like something like chess is a future-pacing game.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're doing. You're imagining scenarios, and then you reason from all the scenarios you're imagining and go, okay, this particular play is the best one, right? And so I'm always doing that. So I'll just sit back and observe and go, the decisions aren't always great. Sometimes my instant gratification wins, but
But your choices always have that in consideration.
yeah, every time. They're always like, okay, you know, because there's just no reality. And I think the big thing is that it doesn't feel like a if for me or maybe if I can do this. Like I'm guaranteed I know I can. So it's not, it'd be one thing if it was what if I could? Like, there is no what if I could in me. Like, I know.
This is going to happen.
I know if I choose, then it's done. And so, because of that, I know if it doesn't happen, it's because I didn't choose it. It's not because, well, statistically speaking, not everybody, no. Like, I'm not in whatever stats that is. Like, and so I know what I'm capable of if I choose it and really lock in and control myself. Sometimes I've been easier than others, but it is just a massive sense of both, like, I guess, ambition and guilt. And there's a dance between ambition and guilt that are like kind of linked together. If I don't, I can't live with my, like, literally, I always go, well, what else am I going to do? Like, there is no part of me that has the luxury to not have anything that I desire happen, because I have to then live, let's say I live a very long life, I have to live another 60, 70, 80 years doing what? Like hating myself and not having any, that's inconceivable. So because I have future pace, I'm like, 10 years from now, there's no reality in which, like,
This doesn't happen.
no, because, or that I do everything in my power. If it doesn't, then it's God's time. But it won't be, because I'll look back and be like, man, you know, probably shouldn't have fucked them 100 girls that year. You know, like I'm not going to let that happen. And I did drift, which is where that pain came from, of looking in the mirror, because I'm always looking in the mirror, literally. And it's not a look of, oh man, the beard's coming. Like, you know, right. It's like, yeah, maybe there's some of that, but it's always, which is what inspired the Man's Creed. It's like, because in the pandemic, I did look in the mirror and I was like, man, I'm disgusted. And I was like, one question started. I was like, how does a man need to live every day to get up? How does a man need to live to get up every day and look in the mirror and be like, thank God I'm this guy? And I don't think most people live like that, you know. So I was like, I'd be damned. And so from there, that started that process of discovery. And so now finishing it and adhering to that, I am to the point now, when I drop off, I'll have to come back and rebuild that self-respect and integrity if I'm out of integrity. But now I know the process of how a man can get up every day. And it always starts with just facts, as you were saying, like facing the truth of, listen, man. And so I'm always doing that. I never let myself bullshit myself too long, which is where that kind of realignment of focus comes back. Even when I'm like, oh shit, now that I end up with 5 women, like this wasn't all right. You gotta start cutting this back down because it does happen, but never let it go too far, because to me, maturity, not even to me, like as far as I can tell from a definitional standpoint, maturity is the ability to like move through life and always consider those who your actions impact beyond yourself. Right. Because if you think about who's a person's immature, it's just do what I want right now. Like, but then usually when we get maybe it's a child or some kind of situation, you mature, meaning, yeah, I would have used to just go out and drink and got drunk tonight and don't remember where I'm at, but now there are other people that I have a duty to.
Other people who are counting on me.
Right. And so I think maturity starts when you start perceiving the world beyond my actions only impact me. And I think maybe that's why people have always been like, you seem mature, because now looking back, it's like there's never been a time where I wasn't thinking about, well, I can't risk that. My family needs, like, I have to, my job is to take the family here, so.
That's huge. That accountability, that's what I heard. Something, even if it is self-determined, being able to hold yourself accountable to something, that's a huge pull. For me, in the challenge or the calling has been dealing with feeling unfulfilled on a daily basis. As you say, looking in the mirror, and not even literally for myself, just reflecting. From sitting there and I look at day in, day out, I get up, take care of the job, take care of the family, take care of my health, the things that are important to me, priorities. And for me in the background, if I don't exercise masculinity architect, if I'm not doing that self-defined purpose, if I haven't done something towards it, I'm like, I'm not that today. I was grappling with that last year. Just the feeling that, okay, I haven't watered that flower today. There's nothing growing. That tree is not getting any stronger. And now fast forward on the other side, having found that discipline, the only difference, and you mentioned it earlier, is like, what is that pull that has me not want to be focused, is I'm noticing that it's actually building a muscle, because that's where I was talking about the environment we engage in now. It's so foreign. The dopamine, quick fix, stimulation, interaction, inundation. And to actually build the muscle of, damn, I've been sitting here 4 hours putting in this work. And because there's no dopamine fix. It's a long term. Like, there's no ticket take. Yeah, you did it 2 hours. You knocked that shit. Nobody sees it. Nobody says it. It's a secret. Like, and
there's no immediate reward. The reward is the apple on the tree.
Yeah,
developing that muscle. Where
you don't know when the first one's
you don't know when the
first
one's
exactly. That's the and I think that is the maturity to know, have had enough laps around the sun or whatever it looks like, where you can hold yourself to account and maintain the discipline and it's got to be a self-fulfillment. It's causing to think beyond self, and it's only rewarded through a self-fulfillment that, yeah, you did that thing. You built that muscle. You chopped the wood today, and that builds into something long-term.
Here's crazy about that. When you do that deep work session, and let's say your laptop, or whatever you were doing, walks away from desk or leaves man cave, and knowing that, and this could apply to anything, you're on a fitness thing, you're like, I didn't eat a donut today, whatever that thing is, what I uncovered in having to do the research is that the only way, there are two things that every man seems to desire on some level. Increasing sense of sovereignty, meaning like control over his domain, his body, mind, all of it. But not feeling that he's a slave to another thing. Freedom, fundamentally, and self-respect. But self-respect and sovereignty are tied. The less sovereignty you have, the less self-respect. So when the greater your, which is what you're describing, discipline. I could have checked Facebook. I could have. And so in that moment, because we do have a relationship with ourselves, people don't really think about it in that way. But you literally have a relationship. Like how, like if you take your person and take them out like two people, you're watching yourself all the time. And you're like, what kind of person am I? I said that I was going to do deep work. Did 2 minutes. Then I'm watching myself trying to delude myself as if I'm not with me all the time. And so we think we're getting away with something, but that shit always eats at you. Every like but it can't get away from it. And that's when I had to realize, like, I'm not above the process. I can't get away from me. And so I may delude myself into thinking, oh, you know, like for example, last summer when I went into ghost mode, there were days where, you know, I'm like, okay, like, it's not enough to just being in here by that's not what it's like. So it's not avoiding social interaction. Isn't like the point, right? It's like, okay, like what do you water, you know? And I wouldn't allow myself to go to sleep because I didn't water shit. And I'd still have to get up early the next day, but because of my own negligence, I mean, I go to bed till 11 because I'm like, I am not going to sleep until I sit at this fucking desk that I've been trying to avoid, right? But the feeling after doing that, one, you've just displayed greater control over yourself, which is sovereignty, and two, you've now built up a reputation. It's like, oh, he's starting not to become that guy that just talks shit and doesn't do what he says he's gonna do. And so when you start becoming the kind of man that you do what you say you're gonna do to yourself, the self-respect is unrivaled. And I've had really high highs of that where I'm like complete trust in myself, and then now I can trust myself, and I'd let it fluctuate, and oh shit, let me get back on my shit and have it fluctuate. But
I'm doing good. I should reward myself.
Right. And go binge 25 boxes of donuts.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And so, but that sense, that feeling, man, there's a specific feeling a man has when he knows, I did the thing. I did the thing. Nobody knows I did the thing.
Accomplishment.
It's a Friday night. It's fucking, so many of those in the summer. I forget it's Friday. It's a Friday night. It struck on me like, motherfuckers are partying. You know what I mean? Not in like a I'm superior because I'm at the house kind of way, but like reflecting, and motherfuckers could be referring to my old self. You know, like, whoa, like it's a Friday night and I'm a 27-year-old that could be doing whatever with whoever he wants to be doing right now, and I'm in here like writing a book, like, you know. Wow, like that's and so the sleep that night is a different kind of rest because I know my apple's coming. You know, so it's like it's that watering it for years. There's something to that, knowing like, okay,
that first bite of that apple is gonna be the sweetest,
the sweetest you've ever had, sweeter than any instant gratification candy apple you've ever had, and it's like, man, I did that, and that's what it's all about. That transformation.
It's cliche, and it is a beautiful fucking space for me to be in the process, the journey, because I'm finding now, like, having gotten that clarity, that's all the fuck I want to do. Like everything else now, like you're talking about Friday night doing that, it's like, it's not even what I could be. It's a
what else have they doing?
Get back to this shit. Like all I want to do, like, okay, let me handle this, and this, so I can get back to that. Like, I'm gonna go to shit. Let me get some rest so I can get up tomorrow and get back to this. Like that feeling of the masculine, because then it's fueling a cycle of knowing yourself as that, and that you built that muscle so that mentally those synopsises are, let's go, what else would you want to do? What else could you do? And it's fulfilling because it plants the seed for that apple in the future. You know yourself every day to be putting in that work. And it's the thing, it then aligns where that is the thing you want to be going and doing. And it's like purpose, passion, fulfillment. I mean, you know, a computer in the Matrix, like it's having a program, having a purpose. Like this is the reason I'm here, and it's so fucking simple. You don't need all the other shit, the distractions and things, or at least when it's time, you'll actually have taken a break, and it's like, well, now I need to balance this out because I haven't touched a woman in how long, or I haven't eaten anything in so long, or whatever.
Right.
But that space as a man, as masculine, it's like you can feel the testosterone just seeping through the pores and shit because it's.
And it's always easier than what you gave it when you were avoiding it. Mm-hmm. You know, okay, you know what? I know I need to do this, but phone, this, that, whatever. But then when you sit down and buckle down and do it, even the little detail before the apple comes, you realize, I just spent 4 hours doing this. I got so much done, and it was easy. Mm-hmm. Like, it wasn't hard. You know, everybody always feels good when they leave the gym, but getting up to go to the gym before you actually build that habit of you being a gym person, nah. It's like you can all the reasons and excuses in the world, but then once you go and you're done, you're like, okay, that felt good, and it was easy, and it's an hour, a half hour, 2 hours out of my life.
That's actually good shit, because I'd say somebody being in the gym 25 years. Where it's never been a question because I've always had a deeper getting control of my body, and I recognize, as you were saying, that like psychologically for me, that third day of soreness, like nothing better. Like knowing that, for me, that's the maximum when the recovery and everything was just creeping around. Like fuck, it was leg day 2 days ago. Yep, right on time.
And that soreness feels good.
That's the reward. Like I earned some shit. Like yes, this is building.
I earned this
supposed to be that way. That's beautiful shit, man. I will say, all right. So for viewers, you know, part of the conversation. One, anything else in the space of focus while we're freestyling?
Nah, I think that was all. Not for me. That was all on point.
What are the tools, secrets, or best thing of value to get you to that space? And I'll kick off for myself where you started, actually, structure. The most powerful thing. Not just taking on reading deep work, the structures, building out my day to the blocks, and not necessarily, I do actually put this as my time, but it's not like I need to 10:30 to 11:30. I may move the time block around, but the context is I'll have a deep work session for health, deep work session for the job, deep work session for the business, whatever it is that I'm doing. And as long as every day I have some structure and I'm measuring it. So, there's somewhere in there is the world of integrity. We say, I've done it, I've built up the muscle, and like now it slips a bit, let me put it back in. Because I find that the structures let us take it off of ourselves. I need to remember to do everything, and a deeper layer, the morality and integrity when we are not doing the thing. And something about being able to track it, the checking off to get it out of my head, like, hey, I'm accomplished, I feel like I got something, and the data. So end of the week, I didn't do my meditation the 3 times I'm supposed to. I only did it twice. Or I skipped a day at the gym, so I only got 4 instead of my 5 workouts, or whatever it is. And that level of structure added to I think for me, structure in that way is the most effective tool to get deep work, deep focus accomplished, and to be able to be with all the layers of conversation for everything else. Because as much as I love the space of this is all I want to do, it's because I've got to manage and get so much else off of my plate every 24 hours to get to that. I have to get my health routine and I got to take care of my family. I got to go ahead and put in my work. And then I can get to this is all I've been wanting to do. This has been my focus. And the structure helps me not be bogged down, overwhelmed, mentally distracted, stressed of what my life looks like, such that I can get the focus in on what I want to focus on when the time comes. That's my takeaway from actually being focused. Structure that helps optimize that accomplishment. What about you, James?
Okay. Well, I thought you were going to say something. I'm with structure. I'm with reviewing your structure on a daily basis. At the end of the day or the beginning of the day, what did I get done? What did I not get done yesterday that I was supposed to? Like, not from I had this conversation. a win-win perspective, as opposed not a loss perspective. It's like, okay, this was on my list for today. This is everything I got. These are all my wins for today. Anything I didn't do, I'm moving till tomorrow. It's not a loss. I'm moving it because it's going to get done. But these are my wins. And to your point of measurement, how many wins did I get today? How many wins did I get Wednesday? How many wins did I get Thursday? You know, keeping track of that can be its own reward and satisfaction system.
Scoreboard.
But I also think it's important not to categorize the things you don't do as losses. Because it's not about beating yourself up, it's about measuring yourself.
That's a big one.
Morality.
So what about so a lot of what I'm hearing is in, I guess the masculine aspect of things. Meaning the literal masculine, from what we described last week, right? The masculine is that which, I guess, focuses, right? It's that which concentrates, and no matter what's going on around, maintains, no matter what, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm hearing that aspect of it. So structures and, the what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
However, we're in a feminine world. Let's put it that way.
Right.
So they're the kids. Hey, pops, I don't give a fuck about your defense. I need you to pick me up from school, right? Or I hurt my leg, or the wife. Hey, I feel like arguing today.
I'm gonna send you a 3-page text about something that you didn't even think about.
So my thing is, I guess I'll lead with it since it's sort of my question. I know for me, why I'd gone through a lot of those modes in and outs is because I didn't know how to properly, some aspects of the feminine, and by feminine I mean just that which changes.
Chaos.
The chaos. But this particular feminine I refer to as women in particular, not just change. Now I wasn't sure how to balance my curiosity, because I don't even know if desire was the right word. It's I'm very curious, because even with the situation I was telling you about, I'm still curious to figure out what the hell was going on in her head. Like,
right.
Even if I don't want her anymore, I'm very I like to understand. And
We solve mysteries. We hunt. We track.
For me, it's even just as a teacher. There are different levels of understanding that are possible. Because if I encounter something I didn't, wow, that's people do that. I want to sit down and question them, right? To see how could you have gotten to this point in your life to where this was okay, right? And so that may be a new to say, oh, wow, or maybe there's a whole backstory that gives you a deeper understanding of oh, maybe you're not as fucked up as I thought. You just came from a shitty environment, right?
You responded to your nature,
right?
Or your nurture.
Your nurture, correct. So I'm always looking for the deeper level of understanding. But I say that, coming back to the woman thing, because of that curious nature, even when I'm locked in, that never goes away, and I'm like, what could that experience be like? Or what's behind door number 2? You know what I mean? And it might not distract me in terms of if I physically move or engage, but there's a part of my mind that's it's wandering off, considering what again could be behind door number 2 if I opened it. So as far as that's concerned, or just even the physical presence of, hey, Lewis, I need my back blown out tonight, or the way, right? I need that thing you do, right? She's like, is in your ear like,
call him, don't call him.
Right? So she's like, hey, such and such. We'd all like to believe, oh no, discipline. I don't, but we all know that's not how that plays out.
Oh yeah,
that's not how that plays out. So, how do y'all navigate that in the past and up to current time?
In the past, for me,
No navigation.
Yeah. In the past, it was like, you want it? I got you. Now, I'm more likely to say nah until I don't feel like it. Like, nah, I can't do it. I got something else going on. It's just nah. But from a guy's ego perspective,
It's a factor.
a woman does not appreciate being told no to sex.
Right.
Because she'll go one of three places. Something wrong with me that you don't want me. You gay. You got somebody else. There's no one. That's it. Those are the three possibilities.
No reality that you
There's no reality that I just don't want to. Or that I'm choosing something else.
That's not another woman's.
That's not another woman. Exactly. I'm not choosing someone else. I'm choosing something else.
That's were you complete?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd say.
Oh no! To the ego point. From a man's ego perspective, we don't ever want to walk into that space where it's like, nah, I ain't gay. Nah, it ain't. But so I got to step up and prove my manhood. That's the young conversation.
Before validating, self-validated.
Exactly.
I find it interesting, even when the monk modes are around. I've always been the listening. Oh, okay, how do you, if you go completely in one direction, discipline in a monk mode, how do you? Is that your optimal? Is always my question. My inquiry is, that the rest is just important. All work, no play, sayings and shit like that.
Right.
Without the maturity to truly have the focus.
Right.
And the context, though, life is for the living. Nothing is guaranteed. I feel, yin and yang, masculine and feminine, there's always a call for me, balance, having the all of it. Like, I feel life is meant to be all of it. I can pursue the dreams, I can have the health, I can have the women, I can have the success, and it's just a matter of what is the work that's going to take to manage that. And it's so funny because I identify to answer on the other side, that is the boundaries and discipline and the level of stressor or stimulus as a man you're willing to, and also self-aware to put yourself up against. The context, if you have women in your life, as you said, there's always going to be a time of, they're going to drop a hint, they're going to say something in your ear, like, oh, what's your schedule, like, what's your, and you can come through, or I'll be over there, like, it's so easy that it's an afterthought when there's no effort or anything required. And I will say for myself, I do unquenchable thirst. It's just facts. It'll always be an evaluation. It'll always be a consideration.
It's an unquenchable thirst. It's like, ain't never a time where I'm like an absolute no.
Yeah, it's like, nah, I ain't feeling at all. Like, I'm at least, what would I'm looking at what would that look like? How can I have it all? Because the fact of that is, okay, how's that going to impact my sleep? We've had these conversations. How's it going to impact my sleep? Then what am I going to do tomorrow? How's that impact the workout? This work I wanted to get done tonight. Because even right now, we get out of here. Shit, I'm 10 minutes closer. And I've got other shit I'm going to take care of back home. And for me, I think it's an active, ongoing evaluation for workability inside of my boundaries. So if I have satisfied, maybe I put in 2 hours of work editing and creating content already, but my status quo is 4 to 5 hours. Or if I've cranked that out the last week, there's just, I believe in always the fluidity of life, being in touch with my divine feminine at the same time to look and gauge. Because that feminine of the pleasure experience is also the feminine of the fulfillment. Hell yeah, getting work done another day. Like, that's a feminine experience. I am that man. I am aligned with that. And at the same time, I ain't had nothing in mind. I need to get something loosened up real quick. Like that. I think that's the gauge for me where I'm always evaluating all of it. How does everything work? And I appreciate that fluidity, like you're saying, all spectrum of the feminine how long has it been since I sat and had a conversation with my daughters, or just played and did something that they want, and balance. So it's full spectrum, not just what I want, even just for who I am as a father, who I am as a man in the world. And I think maturity comes from not just being driven from the I want that, I go for it, not the full-on discipline of, well, this is the greater in the long term, so no room for anything else, but a right now, right here. Like, for me, that's that optimal sweet space I'm always seeking. Like, what allows me to have the fullest, richest life, fulfilled, accomplished, satisfied, well fucked, whatever it looks like, all of it together. And that's, I think, even a deeper fulfillment. When I feel accomplished, when I feel pleased, when I feel satisfied, hitting the marks, getting the wins, getting the goals, and the pleasure and fun, I can rest my head like, fuck yeah, I'm dog ass tired. Let me get up tomorrow and do it all again.
So what I hear in that, I'm gonna call it kind of what you were saying, boundaries of productivity. So you have these are my absolutes. This is my productive day. This is what my productive day looks like. If I satisfy these boundaries, anything I do outside of that just gives me balance. Everybody talks about all work and no play. Nobody ever talks about all play and no work. You have to have balance on both. If you have a structure, and your structure for your day is geared around the boundaries you're putting yourself on productivity, no matter what, these things are going to get done. Have I done everything on my list? Have I worked out? Have I put my work time in, to these projects I said I'm going to do today? If I've done all that and I feel like I've got something done, then there's always room for, old girl calls up and says, what you doing? And you're like, okay, cool. You know what? You look at your boundaries and say, I'm cool to step or I'm cool not to. Or you can say, look, I had a girl ask me tonight, it's like, why you got to go to Norcross? Do you have to go? It's like, because we're doing a podcast. It's like, but why do you have to go? It's like, this is what the boundaries of my productivity outside of that language that I just created now. I had to come because this is what I said I was going to get done today, on top of everything else I've done today. So the response is, you know what? I'll give you a call when I leave. We'll see what's what.
And that feminine listen would be different, especially if we got to do that. We're doing it every week. Oh, things change. Well, I'll slide through real quick.
Right. Exactly.
She's got to listen. Let's see what you about. Okay.
Right. Let's hear that easy, huh?
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I'd say, I guess when I heard balance, it dawned on me, because the idea of, and you may not mean like a 50-50 literally kind of thing, but the monk modes are so incredible because, and monk mode doesn't even necessarily mean like a complete removal of, but a drastic reduction, right? Like drastic. And for me, and I think it might also match with that person's idea of what they want life to look like. I'm insanely ambitious, and so my vision of life is colossal. And so the payoff of it's also probably just having the experiences, right? I guess if I'd never had them or didn't feel like I had access to them whenever I wanted, there'd be a different value to offer than there is now. Like if I'm like, that's a rare thing, then
right.
It's different than when I'll get to that whenever I feel like it. Like, it's always going to be there, right? So there is that. But I also can always future pacing. I go, and this is a more extreme version of it, probably the most extreme. I say, okay, if I died tomorrow and I fucked the shit out of this girl and it was a great time, or getting this book done, which one would be the more, like which one would be like die at peace, like the die at peace kind of thing. And so usually that the answer is not fucking this girl, right? And so it's less.
See, to me, if I was gonna die tomorrow, would I be able to finish the book today? Nah. Okay, then I'm gonna go fuck that girl because the book ain't gonna be done.
I hear you, and I get what you're saying, but and that's where I'm like, when I was listening, I'm like, I guess it comes down to what, like, in my word version, like this book is not a one that's not even about the book,
Right.
But the my deathbed world is one greatly touched by this mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've already touched the world in ways I haven't really made public, like thousands, right? But the level that I see it is nowhere that's like nothing. And so the time that I have here, that's just like, okay, I happen to be a lot of women's type that I can get that a lot, but not. That's nowhere near my tombstone. Like, here lies the guy who knocked down that's all 10,000 women. Like, that's just not.
You ain't trying to beat Will Chamberlain's record.
Nah. If I had to pick, if I get both, then but it's not even close to the change that could be in the world. Because again, that feeling of, you know what it is. There's this thing you can do where you find what really motivates you or drives you at the core, which is the 7 questions deep thing.
I still got it.
Right. It's actually, if you do it, you can go way deeper than 7. But however, I've done it with clients and it takes way more than 7 questions. But the point is to get back to the point where you can't go any further down in terms of like, why is this important to me? Why is this important to me? So an example would be like if you said, okay, I want to be a baseball player. I'm like, okay, I want to be a baseball. Why is it important to be a baseball player? Oh, well, because I want to make a lot of money. Why is it important to make a lot of money? Oh, because my family's never had money. Why is it important for your family? Oh, because they took care of it. Like, and you go and go and go. So for me, whenever I did that exercise, the last one was always because I don't want to spit in God's face. And so that's my driving principle, which is likely why my answer would be finishing the book, because me fucking a girl is still spitting in God. Like, dang, like, I blessed you to the umpteenth. Like, and you just fucked a girl on your last day and then give the world that knowledge that could have transformed it, So that's how everything is funneled through leveraging all the blessings that I've been so fortunate to have in one person, and squeezing that shit the fuck out until I die.
That's what's up.
And so that balance for me probably looks like 90-10. But when I'm in that 10, like I'm really in that 10, but I need the 80 or 90 of bringing the rag out, so I can really lie. So when I am, as you said, if I'm kicking it with a girl, like I am there and there. I'm never at my, like there's never a ever. And that's been that way since I was with my ex. She's not on her phone. She knows that. Like, if I'm there, I'm there. Mm-hmm. And if there's an ounce of distraction, she knows I'm out. Like, there is no, unless it just happened to be on our phone chilling. But there's no, she's saying something to me and I'm on my phone, or I'm talking to her. Like, the moment that happens, and that's always been the case for whoever else. Like, for them hours, do not disturb. And so, but in that 10-20% where I'm playing, full play for hours, right? And then when I come back out of that, it's like, okay, because
now I'm back on the ground,
right? But I found when I would off-put that and make it closer to even, I'd always feel unfulfilled. I felt emptier when I was playing too much, because I'm thinking like, man, let's say 8 hours. Let's say I sleep 8 hours. Let's say I spend, that's what leaves 16 hours, and I spend 8 having fun and 8 working. That 8 having fun, about 4 of it felt like a waste of my time. So I don't know if it's a personal value thing that determines the ratio of what balance looks like. Because when I think of balance, I literally think like a scale of 50-50. But yeah, balance to me looks more like work really hard so that I can really enjoy the play.
Maybe the conversation is linguistics. It's not work, it's productivity. You're being productive. You want to be productive for 12 hours, play for 4. As opposed to you want to work for 12 hours and play for 4.
What's the difference? Work to me doesn't have a negative connotation. So I don't know if that's... Productivity doesn't sound like a different word to me.
Work to me is, I don't want to do it.
No, that's not how I perceive it. Work is just output to me.
Okay.
Output of value. So if I'm working on something, it means that I'm producing. So it doesn't have a negative connotation for me. But I can see... Now when people say I'm going to work, or I don't want to have work
associated with that. I'm being productive. I'm working on my shit.
Work to me is just that which produces. So that's how I perceive it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
To the point with the fulfillment, and they said that 4 hours of if you were to do 8 on 8, the concept of the deep work.
Yeah.
So the feminine, the chaos, it's not measured. When you're fucking off, there's no point where, all right, that's enough fucking off. It's like that inquenchable thirst. There's no context where, well, I've had enough, because it's like you can always get more. The instant gratification of pretty much the majority of in the feminine world, you can take so much of it, and like you say, it's empty because you're not actually feeling anything. Like it's a never-ending hole. You can always be taking in more of it. So there is a context where the fulfillment, the same 4 hours in that can equal to a whole day's worth of value, fulfillment, whereas 4 hours dedicated to, just frivolous whatever, satisfying your feminine desires.
Right.
It's not going to, because it's like, there's no measurement, there's no game. It's like, what we did that today. We had the experience. Is there too much? Is 5 hours enough of that? Is 20 minutes enough of that? Like, without the moderation of the boundaries, it's immeasurable. And without going in with that, your own boundaries in place, it's easy to be in a space where it's just a constant stuck.
Yeah, another spliff, another drink, another hole.
And to that, even it advances. So, like, specifically speaking to women, at least for myself, I will say, in the masculine role of containment, when you open the door to that, you can come through, you can beat it up, hang out. Now that we say today I want to argue about something.
Right.
There's a problem of something. So now your containment in the feminine world, I've left this other human being, this woman I care about, my partner, whatever the conversation, with something, and now that's scheduled 4 hours is bleeding over into 6.
For sure.
Where do you stop? Well, I got to get to my boundaries. I know you're fucking heartbroken and in tears, but got to get back to work like that.
See me after I get done with this paragraph.
Exactly. Like,
and there are times for that, right? Meaning, like, if you literally have to go to a meeting or something, there are real times where it's like,
I got a meeting, I gotta go.
Right? So there are times where that's real, but I see what you're saying. It's not as if it's a rigid thing all the time. Like, life isn't, right? But it's like because if you go, it's sort of like you go into a game with a plan, or you go into a game with no plan. You know the plan is never gonna go the way you think, but you better have a motherfucking plan, right? Versus, it's not gonna work out anyway, so let me just go in.
Let me just go.
Right.
Let me wing it.
Yeah, and you're always just winging life. That's not what I mean. But I mean, I remember plenty of times where, long discussions, you're gonna call them, like, bleeding over into man, we've been discussing things for like 5 hours right now. Like,
yep.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like, I'm supposed to be in the office.
Right.
I literally have memories of standing outside the office like, look, when I left you this morning, everything was cool. Why are we having this conversation now when I'm at work?
Right. Literally. Like, so it's I'm not going to pretend like, but I mean, in terms of like, okay, an ideal, it's like, okay, well, because I've tried them, and that's how I'm like, okay, well, this doesn't seem to be a good ratio for me. I've tried I've tried way above 50-50. I've tried way over 50 pleasure, and there was always this moment at the end of the day, like, you know, like
that shit wasn't worth it.
Yeah, like what I wasn't even enjoying. That's what I really realized. I'm like, it's like the, you know, the first beer or something. I don't even drink, but like that one may have been. But then the seventh one is like, after like the second one, I was just drinking because it was there.
Because it was there.
You know, and that I was like, I'm trying to take out the
like
because it was there.
In front of you.
Bingo. I'm trying to remove the because it was theirs, like, out of my life, and really amplify that I genuinely wanted it, and that was dope, and like the highest level of pleasure. But then I'm like, yeah, I just she wanted to come on. I was like, yeah, come on. But I didn't actually want to. It was just the not knowing a reality of no, and it's not even because of the I'm gay, or that's not even the thing. It's just like there was no reality of no. It just literally was not a reality. It's not even like I could say no. There was just like I was here, why not? Like, and so it's learning like I can choose to invest in something else right now. Like, you can say no. Like, it's just crazy to think.
Eddie Murphy did a skit way back in the day when he first became big. I forget which concert it was. But he was saying, yeah, when I first became famous, da-da-da-da-da, he's like, women were just throwing panties at me, and I'm just catching them. Just catching them everywhere. And then it's like, after a while, it's like, yeah, here, you want these panties? Passing them around to his friends. It was a whole bit. But that is the movement into maturity, where you ain't got to fuck them all.
Yeah.
You ain't gotta fuck them all.
I mean, was in that mind state at one point in life, as we all have.
Oh, we all
right.
were. We all were. One of the earliest jokes, probably in high school, I heard this. Papa Bull and the Baby Bull standing on top of a hill. Y'all know that one?
Yeah, that's like a wisdom story.
Yeah. But the moral, just for the audience, the Papa Bull and Baby Bull standing at the top of the hill. Baby Bull says to the Papa Bull, "Yo, Pop, let's run down the hill and fuck us a cow." Papa Bull says to Baby Bull, "No, son. Let's walk down and fuck them all." Right. Now, that was probably most men, that was the guiding principle. Let's fuck them all. But why?
It's funny that spectrum, I think, in the background of the discipline or in the background of the focus conversation is discipline, because some of the early phases, validation. I'm just thinking of the spectrum of where we start. If needs aren't met, it breeds resentment. You can be in a relationship dynamic, whatever, like one of those, a hierarchy of needs. Like, if the need's not met, if you're thirsty, dehydrated, it's the most important thing, most important priority. And then when it reaches that surplus or anything really just in the optimal homeostasis, it's not necessary, it's not positive or negative. It's, well, do I want to? Why would I? Like, you could lean either or. That's where the discipline comes into play. Like, where does it actually factor in? And the maturity is, to what I was talking about earlier, the responsibility that, it may lean you into something that spills over even if you're not even aware of it, thinking about preparing for it, and it can just happen as part for the course that comes along with it. Good discussion.
Facts.
Actually, 20 minutes out.
One thing I want to point to is something you said relating to both of you, around structure and schedule, and when things want to push you off of your schedule. The schedule, and you pointed this in something you said, the schedule is not static. The schedule is, these are the things that are scheduled in my day, these are the things I want to get done. That doesn't mean they can't be moved. They're not immutable. They can be split around. Something comes up. My son calls me up and says, "Look, Pop, I was in an accident. I need you to come da 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 da." I'm gonna move my schedule around. And when all that's handled, I'll come back and be like, "Okay, where am I at in my schedule? Where am I at in my day?" And get back in that grind. Right. You know, and to your point, I may be, it's midnight now before I'm done with my day.
Right.
But if I'm committed to my day, I'm committed to my day.
Intentionality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
So focus requires commitment.
for sure. Because otherwise, like going back to the original question, like what's the point?
Yeah.
You know, like are we focusing just as a badge, like some social media blue check mark? I'm a focused individual. Like, I'm going ghost. Like that's some Danny Phantom type shit. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Danny Phantom.
Yeah, man. I've been, you know, because you see those the motivational videos of like ghost them, come back, they won't recognize you. You know, right? And there's a particular mental headspace of a person that needs exactly that, but it's not the end all be all. Ghost them until you're 70. You know, your family's like, we haven't seen you in decades. Like,
What have you been doing?
you don't even recognize me. That the video said, yeah, because you're 70.
Yes.
I haven't seen you since you were 25. Like, you know, oh, that's not what they meant.
Yeah.
But I'm still developed. Like, so it's like,
Actually, a good point. That's another aspect of family we don't generally talk about, but we also have a responsibility to our parents.
for sure.
You know, to our family, to our siblings, to cousins, to whatever our extended family is. It's like we talk about our kids, we talk about our women, but
No,
you know,
they're in the equation.
Yeah.
I mean, they poured into me, so they're my mom, my pops, like, you know, they're our grandmas, all of them.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't even be in the U.S. if it wasn't for all of them. So I think another layer that I didn't mention is the fact that I'm an immigrant, right? So another, like, I think more, probably the deepest layer of it all is this, all that's about to happen. I wouldn't say it would be impossible, who knows, but be a lot trickier if I was still in Jamaica, right? So there is no, I won't say there is no, but again, a lot trickier considering how America is structured. Why do you think so many people try to come here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all that being said, for me to have been one of the few, you know, Gary Vee, why he's so big on his perspectives, that I fucking was in Russia. Like, you know, if I was still in Russia being who I am, what a tragic story. If I was still in Jamaica, capable of what I'm capable of. Again, it's not that it's impossible, but the level it's going to go to could not have happened in the same way.
Yeah.
So
the level of opportunity, the level of everything.
No way it was going to go down the same way. So it's like, for me to come here and just dick around figuratively and literally, and that's my legacy. To give
That's
them
where
the
your
opportunity.
family gave you the opportunity to come here, so you have an obligation.
Right, to just, oh man, you know, haha, you saw the game, we drank, we fucked chicks, and that's what the sacrifice was for. Like, that can't work. So that does factor in my family and my parents and all that. So that's how I think about it. And, like, again, don't ever go too far off course because of that. You'll never see me no bar fight and all that, because I know, like, I got shit to do, man. Like, you're nothing to me. So you can, okay.
Same thing. I was thinking, we were talking about it earlier, there's an element, there is kind of a tree planted when we talk about distraction with feminine, specifically in the context of women. Because to that, if, and really, I guess it can be all pleasure, there's a level of, because as you increase value as a man, as you increase your value, what you're putting into, there's a bit, what they say, don't chase women, chase money, and the women come with it. So there's also an element of, you can go, you know, get your 5 flavors right now at Baskin Robbins with the budget you got. But as far in value budget, not literally money in your pocket. But if you go and write the book, if you go and follow the purpose, make the difference out in the world, you got the full 32 flavors every time you go, that's him. heating, chopping that wood, putting in that work. And there's also a delayed gratification to that, even if the quality of potential partner prospect where you are is not where you envision, because you're so ambitious, or the women around can't even fathom the level you're going to take it to, not where they could even follow. Like, there'd be too much grueling and work. Like, this bracket ain't worth it. Let me just grind in and focus, and then you have access to that higher tier, higher caliber. That's even a delayed gratification. So it's like you're speaking to the 80-20 or 90-10%. Part of it can be that maturity and recognition. Well, I've had enough, and at this tier, how many times you want to go ride on the ride at Six Flags?
Right. I haven't thought about it in that way, but fair point. And I will say, if you think about another contrast, right? Let's say whatever tier I'd be perceived to be on now, right? Because right now I haven't encountered any caliber, quote unquote, of woman that's like, oh well, you don't qualify. Like, I've never currently encountered that. Yet I hear them complain about guys that they would perceive as not qualifying. And so if you think about things as investment, if we're like the tree that we're watering every day with whatever kind of water, what kind of fertilizer, the average Joe's investing in, I don't even know what the average Joe is. Like, I try to think of, like, what does a regular person do? TV and drink and weed, and because those things,
video games,
and all those things I've indulged in. I mean, wine, but like, it's not like in and of them, but like the ratio of time, right? Like, let's say we on a regular basis make a habit of reading, and it's not. Nothing's wrong with romance novels, but it's something that's building towards something to where you can impart some wisdom, like lived wisdom on a woman you encounter, right? Which they just love. I've come to learn, but that's a very different experience for a woman than. Again, I've never really hung around these kinds of guys, but I'm when they meet you, they tend to point out stark contrasts, and I'm like, well, I don't know what. I'm just me my whole life. Like, I don't know what. I don't date men. Like, I don't know what another guy would be like. And she's like, no. This is different, and this is different, and this is different. Yeah. And so he's like, I've never run into something. This is probably the craziest shit that happens all the time. And I was talking to my homeboy about it, and he's like, no, you have to think, like, you don't know what's out there. And the most common thing that trips me out is women, thank you for talking to me.
Listening to me.
Like, listening. But meaning literally, like, I'm like, I feel honored to have mentioned, like, honored. I'm like,
yep.
I mean, okay. Like, but like an honor. And these aren't like, bottom of the barrel women. And so that's what I'm saying when we're going back to the tiering or the quality. If for a man, and if you think about how women are operating these days, they're the ones, quote unquote, delaying gratification. They're not the ones fucking 100 dicks. Not the women that would be perceived, quote unquote, on high. Right? They may have a couple dudes or one solid dude here and there for periods of time while they focus on career and So they're developing themselves in the beyond the sex, beyond the distractions, whereas the average guy is not. So when they encounter woman, culture program, go get it girl, dudes like the average Joe, not doing much other than gratifying himself as often as he can, encounters a woman that's doing something with herself. He's like, oh my God, you're so smart. She's like, I guess this will do. And then she runs into a motherfucker that blows her shit out the water.
Right.
And she's like, whoa. And so that's where you're saying, like, I'm like, now it's like that. So I can't imagine at that level. I'm like, can it get easier? Like, it's like, yes. but like, as you're saying, like, it's a different level. That's when they're balling them. Like, you're gonna see me if it's the last thing I do, kind of thing, right? So it's like, because the pickings, I guess, are a lot slimmer than we would think because we're not
Yeah.
dating guys, right? We don't know.
It's an interesting paradigm. I think in total, because I was even hearing when I was thinking about, you're right. Like if you're grounded, mature and masculine, there is an already cream of crop experience. And what I think it equates to when I think of tiers is more or less the social elite aspect. There are some where not even by what you have, you can't enter the door to their mind because their social world is, oh, I went to millionaire's banquet last week. Like if you ain't got the pockets for it, divorcee or whatever means would get you in that door, you don't enter their social sphere. Now, in that sphere, if you're in there for a reason, having a conversation, interact, oh, you've already got the black card because you've got your grounded mass and you're about something.
Right.
And to that also, a layer deeper, what you were sharing in, I will say that's a form of mature validation when a woman truly submits to you. And not even just in the following, what you were talking about, heard that today, like, it was I'm a fan of you. Or thank you for giving me your time.
Yeah,
I'm always learning from
right.
having a grown-ass, mature woman that all that she could have out there actually say to you, I'm always learning from you. I love when you talk, I just go doe-eyed and listen. It's like that shit is like, man, you might as well have it in your mouth. Like that's for me, that's like, oh, you seeing it.
It's like shit, if you're going to be doe-eyed, might as well multitask as I'm teaching you this lesson.
I can talk here.
I'm the one who needs my mouth. Go ahead. Yeah, you won't be needing yours.
Facts, man, facts. It's so interesting that
this is not what I expected that to go.
I like throwing that uncanny where you can't expect the unexpected. But it's facts though. That's a whole different stratosphere, networking, and to the same thing, like you said, the tiers of access where you actually get up to that level that actually opens up, that balling it up, throwing in droves.
But see, it's not even about the money though.
No,
it ain't even about walking into the high dollar places. It really is about you can meet a baller woman at the grocery store, and if you have the right conversation and the right step to her, it's like, you're exactly in that moment. It's like, I don't know why I tell you. I feel like I want to open up to you, and I feel like I can trust you. I feel like da 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 da, and it's just like you're not doing anything different. It's who we are being in that moment when we have a conversation with anybody.
And to your point though, like you said, meeting in the grocery store, there's a certain level where, well, she sent the help to go do that. Like you, that's that. To is it's just so A-list celebrity or whatever. There's just status of how culture operates. You know, when they have those leaks from the top 5%, top 1%, sending from the CEO of the bank, emailing that top elite society. There's doors closed and things you just don't have access to. Not a monetarial because you have the money. You haven't reached this level of status even. It might be celebrity. It might be your pockets. It might be whatever. The sheiks over in the oil countries and stuff like that. There's a level
the
of
rooms we could not get in Dubai.
For sure. Though I don't perceive it from a man to woman standpoint.
Yeah.
Our value in women has nothing to do with their social status. So like it's not like a woman that is within those doors, we perceive her as better pussy, better convo, better cook. Like there's
no value for us.
Not in and of itself. So it doesn't really mean like, oh dang, unless you want to leech from her.
That part. But no.
There's no real reason why, shorty there's no beauty advantage. Like there's there's nothing really that men value like that. Unless you're just a guy.
Unless you're looking for that status.
Right. Unless you want to, like it's like, I can't partner with anybody below a certain tier. For whatever, royalty marrying royalty kind of thing. Like there's an element of that. But that's only if that's just your style of life. But I don't know too many men who are like, man, if she's a regular woman, there's just the pussy can't be as good as the women in these closed doors.
Right. No.
That's an experienced guy.
Yeah. And for most men, a woman who is balling in that room is, even if you're at that level, she would have to have a certain kind of personality.
For sure.
We care more about your personality than your status.
I don't think men. I mean, if it's there, I don't know, like as a requirement. Like, man, you know, if you were higher status, then I could.
Yeah, we don't care. Yeah, exactly.
What the fuck do I give a
We care about how are you going to take care of me?
Yes.
How are you going to cater to me?
But
Not necessarily wait, but like, how are you going to feed me who I am?
And that aspect is actually why those women tend to struggle the most, because if your world is the help goes to the grocery store, the man does not want shit. He's gonna be fucking the maid in a little bit. Shit, she don't want
Right.
no, like
That
she don't
part.
want doing the womanly stuff. So I don't. The dynamic with a woman isn't merely having my kids while the maids do everything else. Like there's an experience, at least for me, I can speak for me, where it's not merely about how we appear to the public, right? Like what's my experience with you when we're alone? Can you go up and get up and make some pancakes, and vice versa? Like she's not, well, you know, I'm rich, so, you know, I'll have the, what's the simple of, I'll have the fuck, can you open the jar? Brendan! Right, like,
Right.
come open this jar, right? Like, you know, like you're so divorced from the
Doing
dynamic
anything,
of,
yeah.
right, like that the whole dynamic is just you looking in my face, I look in yours, and that's, like, that sounds like a disaster.
There's no,
You know?
there's no passion.
No.
There's no knowing.
Nothing about
There's no
that.
knowing now.
So like that, there's an element of like, well, what are you here for? So you're just here to replicate me, you know, in terms of the children, and even then you're not taking care of the kids. Like, so
Right.
it's
Once you have kids, it's like, what's your purpose now?
and truth be told, that's how I don't think they've thought about it critically, but in a weird way, a lot of women perceive that as the ideal life, right? The maid, the da-da-da-da. It's just like, well, what is your role? Well, my role is here to just sit here and consume, right? And be taken care of, right? And so there's no thought pattern of
that want that.
right, but there's no thought pattern of what do I
What
want
would
to
you
give?
be doing?
Right. What do I want to give? If more people ask, like men and women, like just like I don't remember. Maybe it was Corey Wayne I heard said this. I mean, I don't know if it was actually his quote, but you know, the point of of getting a relationship is to give to another person. But I think from how I notice people operate, they shiny. What can I get from that kind of guy?
And honestly, that's not even. It doesn't matter what status you're at. That part comes into play, from male and female. It's like, what am I getting out of this? The whole, and I fall into this, but the whole, what are you bringing to the table conversation?
That's important.
It is,
But it's not,
it feeds
it's not
into the what am I getting?
You have to think about what you're getting, because otherwise.
But you also have to think about what you're giving to the conversation.
What I'm
and if
saying,
all you're
that-
giving as a man is money and or dick, and all you're giving as a woman is appearance and or pussy, then
If that's what the person is buying, then there is
if that's the
for that.
dynamic of that relationship I would propose probably would not last.
No, it's not gonna be no deeply passionate nothing. But I mean,
You know,
there are
most
people who are buying
people
that.
want a deep, passionate relationship.
For sure.
Even if they think, okay, this looks good on paper, they're going to go find the deep, passionate relationship, you know, with the maid, with whoever. I mean,
Yeah, that
Arnold
connection.
Schwarzenegger, you know.
No, I thought of him when I said that. But I mean, for sure. And the reality is that if most people are going into things where it's like, what am I going to get? What am I getting? What am I getting? And that's the lens, then it doesn't matter if they want passion. They're just not even looking at the situation from the proper
They're not looking
paradigm.
at it critically. They're not looking at it in reality.
Right. And so it's like, well, in fact, I mean, even another layer, you know, why there's so many single women, that it is that lens, right? Well, I can't get enough from this man because we make the same amount, or I make maybe slightly more, even if he doesn't need any of my money. And it's a tricky thing because it's both their nature to be that way, but also I think if we're just more education about what a relationship's purpose is. What do you think the function of a man is in your life, right? Like actually, why do you actually want a man? And much of that is just programming from what you see online. The point of my man is so that I can post pictures with him and say we're on
so
trips.
I can look good,
Right.
so I can...
That I'm not single no more.
That I'm not
This
single
is
now.
Buddha.
Look, I got one too.
Right, like that. I mean, like low key, that's the ideal these days. It's like I'm alone.
And men fall into that too, where it's like,
Oh, for sure.
all I got is I can look what I put.
Oh, men have always been the
Yeah.
men. That's always been men. Like now, women are having more options, and you're seeing the other side of that, what their version of it looks like. Because if you see women's vision board, like men's will have maybe several women. Very rarely see a vision board of a guy with a wedding. Like,
Oh yeah. No.
You know, they have a Mustang over here,
We
a house, a trip.
cars, computers, money, and women.
Is weak right now. You're like, that's so inconceivably weak.
Was that on your vision board?
Yeah, it's like, hey man, you know what's going on? How you feel? Like it just to actually get that is so foreign.
Never.
That's a phenomenon.
That's true. That's actually a brilliant
Now,
observation.
women's
Because I
vision
had
board
thought
is
about it, but
always
you're right.
the husband,
There's
wedding,
almost
the
always
kids,
a wedding and kids.
travel, the how we look in public together.
Yeah.
When they ask, hey, what do you want for the wedding? I don't know what the fuck you want. I ain't thought about that shit before.
The fucking wedding on his wife on the vision board, like never. So that
Whatever's cheapest.
right, like of course you have the wedding on there. You're not paying for it, right?
Right.
You're just like, oh, thanks, right? Even if you make way more to me, you don't want to pay, you know. So there's that dynamic of just a whole motherfucking retwisting of reality that needs to happen, like not a retwisting, an alignment with, like, okay, what are we actually doing here? Like, what am I actually trying to get? Because I had a convo recently with a woman, and she's saying to me that, you know, I feel like I'd be pushing the men away. I know what she was trying to say. That's not maybe her experience of like, why do I always be finding flaws? But I think what it was just partly this feeling of back in the day, if Joe Billy Bob was one of the 5 single guys in town, you're not as nitpicky about Joe Billy Bob because he's bringing the main meat, right? Now there's an element of my girlfriend's man has a 6-pack, you know what I'm saying? And so there's an element of that's so, because women are so social, that the element of bringing my man around, wherever around means, to the Thanksgiving, to the barbecue, to then it's like, oh, that's your man? Yeah. You know, like there's a level of, and so I think in their minds, some of them subconsciously are just looking for reasons to, when they know, like, I'm really not sold on this guy, but don't want to be lonely. They're like battling with, I'm not sold on him, but I don't want to be lonely. And so I'm kind of
Mine for the minute.
gonna trickle this along just so I don't completely let it go. But if something a little closer to what I'm looking for comes around,
Yep.
you know, whatever happens kind of thing. And so that's what I've observed, and I've observed it in their behavior as well. So we'll say off camera.
We'll talk about that later.
Right. But,
Closing thoughts.
Stay focused, my friends.
That's
Stay
good.
focused.
Stay focused. I like that. Simple. Good shit.